Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Mixcraft Quick Tips. Today I'm very excited because we're going to be learning about recording acoustic guitars right at home. Acoustic guitars are one of my favorite instruments, and I always found it a little bit terrifying to record acoustic guitars because I think it's such a great sounding instrument and it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to get that good sounding recording and really do the instrument justice. Today I wanted to share a few techniques to get great sounding acoustic guitar recordings in your home studio using both 1 and 2 microphone setups, as well as teach you a couple different microphone techniques to really nail down that perfect acoustic guitar sound for your next production. First up, let's talk microphones. When it comes to miking up acoustic guitars, there are a couple of different approaches. You can use a single microphone, you can use 2 microphones that are matched, you can use 2 different microphones and blend them together, or you could use a complex setup of 3 or more microphones. Now, today we'll be focusing on 1 and 2 microphone setups because anything beyond that can get a little tricky to manage, especially when it comes to the phase relationships, and it's also not super budget friendly, so we're going to be focusing on something that's really practical that you can do right now. When it comes to recording acoustic guitars, there are no right choices with microphones, but there are 2 main ones you should really know about: large diaphragm condensers and small diaphragm condensers. When it comes to the differences between the two, small diaphragm condensers like this one typically yield a really detailed response. They have a really nice high end and they're extremely transient sensitive, meaning they pick up a lot of little nuances in the performance. Large diaphragm condensers, on the other hand, like this one, yield a really big full response, but they might not be quite as detailed. But you can always mix and match the two to blend them together differently in the mix and get a little bit of the best of both worlds. Today, to keep things simple, I'm going to be using a matched pair of small diaphragm condensers, so these shipped from the factory, matched to sound really good together, and we're going to be using these to demonstrate a couple different techniques to get really great sounding acoustic guitar recordings. To kick things off, we're going to start off with a basic 1 microphone setup. Now, to begin, what we're going to do is place our microphone on the stand, and we're going to point that microphone right towards the joint of the neck and body of the acoustic guitar. This is typically the best starting point for a nice full sound. Another good starting point as well, though, if you want maybe a little bit of a lighter, brighter tone, is to point the microphone towards the 12th fret of the guitar. This way you're going to pick up a little bit more fretboard noise and not so much of the rich full body sound. For the placement of the microphone, usually a good starting point is about 1 foot away from the guitar. This way you get a nice tight recording with just a little bit of the room. But if you're in a nice sounding room, you can back off to 2 or even 3 feet away. This way you'll get a bit more of the impression of the actual room the guitar is being played in. For the best quality recording, you're going to want to make sure that the room is as quiet as possible, so take a minute to make sure you've turned off any loud appliances like refrigerators, laundry machines, air conditioner, anything like that. You can also hang up some heavy blankets around the room to deaden it a bit, or use really heavy curtains on any windows to make sure that sound from the outside isn't going to get in and ruin your recording. Now, recording an acoustic guitar with 1 mic is great, obviously very budget friendly, but I think things really start to shine when you bring another microphone into the equation, and this is for 2 big reasons. First up, we get a larger overall impression of the performance. If we have only 1 microphone, that's only going to capture so much of what's going on, but once we bring another microphone into the equation at a different position, we're able to get a different sonic impression from that point, and when we blend these 2 things together, we get a larger overall sound. If you listen to someone playing a guitar and you move around the room a bit, you'll hear some differences in the performance. Over towards the neck, things are just a little bit brighter, airier. Towards the body, they're more dark, round, full. But if we blend both of these things together, we really get the best of both worlds. So having 2 microphones is a really handy way to capture all that. The other big thing is we can take advantage of this in the mix. If we have 2 different microphones recording a performance, we could pan them out pretty far and get this really lush, wide sounding acoustic guitar, which is what you often hear in commercial recordings. When it comes to using 2 microphones to capture an acoustic guitar, there are a couple of different techniques. And let's start off with one of the most basic, but one of the most effective, which is an XY setup. To do this, we'll place the microphones on 2 different stands or use a stereo bar like I've got here, and we'll cross the capsules. This way we're pointing one to one side of the instrument and one to the other. This is going to give us a nice wide stereo image and also capture some of the differences between the body and the neck of the guitar. Now that we've got it set up, let's give it a play and see how this sounds. Next up, we'll try one of my favorite miking techniques, which is what I call the performer position. What we're going to do is use one microphone pointed to where the neck joins the body, just like we did with the single microphone setup, but then we'll place another microphone over the guitarist's shoulder towards the body side of the instrument. This roughly replicates what the guitarist hears when playing, and I think this really gives a nice overall impression of how an acoustic guitar sounds. If you're aiming for a brighter overall sound, you can also change the setup to place the microphone over the guitarist's shoulder to the side of the fretboard. This just captures a little bit more bright detail from the fretboard without the round, full sound of the body. Now that we've got this set up, let's first give a listen to this technique pointed towards the body of the instrument. Now let's swap that over to the other shoulder towards the fretboard and give it another listen. Now finally, we have one little twist on this setup, and I think this is another really good technique. It's just a little bit trickier to nail down, and this is placing both microphones over the shoulder of the performer roughly where their ears would be to replicate what the guitarist hears as they perform. The big trick to this technique is to make sure both microphone capsules are roughly the same distance from the instrument. This way the sound arrives at the same time and everything is in phase. This is a great technique for intimate singer-songwriter performances because it places your listener in the position of the performer because it's replicating what they're hearing as they're playing. This is a really great technique for soft and intimate tracks. And there you have it, the basics of getting started with recording acoustic guitars in your home studio. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome. Be sure to subscribe to the channel down below for more Mixcraft Quick Tips just like this one, and as always, thanks for watching.